and welcome to another edition of Lost Louisiana. I'm your host, Charlie Whinham. We are calling this program, What's in a Name? Throughout the state, there are many names of towns and cities that just left us wondering, how did they get their names? Towns like Zwolle, Tickfaw, Dry Prong, or LeCounte are just some of the towns we are highlighting on the map tonight. Our research included probing questions and uncovered some fun facts to the towns with those unique names. For example, is the town I'm in now, Bunkie, Louisiana, actually named after a monkey? You'll have to stay tuned to find out. Also, did you know one community is actually named after a racehorse? And that same town was highlighted in 1989 on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and it became a TV classic. So get ready to take a ride through some of the more unique named towns across Lost Louisiana. Let's get things started with Bunkie, Louisiana. And how in the world did this town get its name? Some people will tell you it was named after a monkey. And as you'll find out, it's partially true. It all started back in the late 1800s with the Hayes family that settled this area. And the unusual name of the town still sparks interest when strangers hear the name for the first time. To the best of our knowledge, no other city in the world is named Bunkie. Just this town of roughly 4,000 in southern Avoyelles Parish. In fact, even the word Bunkie was made up by a 2-year-old over a century ago. And it all revolves around a toy monkey and a little girl by the name of Mackie Hayes. Lifetime resident Nancy Carruth is a direct descendant of Mackie and knows the tale of the Bunkie monkey very well.
My great uncle had this little girl that had a toy monkey, and she called it her Bunkie, and so that became her nickname. And so when the railroad got the property for their right-of-way, they gave the Hayeses the privilege of naming the city. So they named it after the little girl, Bunkie.
Bunkie is located in the heart of some of the best farmland in the South. And the hub of Bunkie is arguably the 100-year-old Bailey Hotel. Current owner Tommy McNabb saved this structure from the wrecking ball 6 years ago.
I hated history in high school, but now I really enjoy digging up historical tidbits about the hotel.
History like Huey Long once campaigning on the front porch of the hotel.
My dad used to do an imitation of Huey Long when Huey Long was on the steps campaigning. And would you like me to do it?
Try it, Dad. I'd love to hear it.
Well, he would step up and he'd say, "My friends, and you all my friends, I have a vision for Louisiana." He'd say, "I look out there in those cotton fields," and he said, "I see those horses and buggies." He said, "That's not my vision." He says, "My vision is I look out there and I see those John Deeres." And I can't do justice to it like my dad could, but anytime you're in the middle of a bunch of people, just jump up and say that. "My friends, and you all my friends." And you've done Huey Long.
Life from a front porch can be very relaxing. And from the rocking chairs of the Bailey Hotel, you get the sense that they do not monkey around when it comes to preserving the past. Just ask the town's mayor.
You know, we really do have a bunch of remarkable old buildings still intact, and there is some effort to restore some now, and some restoration taking place by an energetic bunch of ladies who started a push.
This community, like so many in Louisiana, was shaped by the railroads of the late 1800s. The Bunkie Train Station is another great example of recent restoration efforts. The depot was built in the early 1900s. Here, the days of the Texas and Pacific Railroad come back to life. The Bunkie Train Depot. Phyllis, this is a beautiful place.
It's a beautiful place and a real asset to our town. It was built in 1911. We received an iced tea grant about 5 years ago to restore it back to exactly like it was. They came in and used some of the same wood and did it exactly like it was back then.
Yeah, plenty of artifacts too.
Yes, yes. We had people.
What's this?
This was the way that the engineer and the people at the station would communicate.
Really?
Someone would stand on the end of this by the railroad and hold it out, and they'd come through and put his arm through it and take the note off of it.
My dad was telling me that the drummers got off the train, and I guess that's where the term drumming up business came from, because they were traveling salesmen. They'd get off here and they'd spend the night here and sell to the grocery stores, the farmers, and what have you.
Notes and drummers would evolve in Bunkie by the 1930s and 40s with the sounds of the big bands. And watch out, these were the days when Bunkie went funky. Now, you wouldn't know it by looking at present-day Bunkie, Louisiana, but back in the day, about 60 years ago or so, some of the most prominent Americans made their way through this town. Folks like George Patton, Howard Hughes, Cab Calloway, and Duke Ellington. What do they all have in common? Well, they all made it through this little cool jazz music and dance hall by the name of the Blue Moon. The Blue Moon was known throughout central Louisiana as the place for hot jazz, as well as a sizzling steak. When the United States prepared for World War II, thousands of soldiers were in the area for Army training. A $2 ticket got you inside to hear Duke Ellington into the wee hours of the night.
Everybody loved to go to the Blue Moon.
Sonny Harris's mom and dad opened the Blue Moon in 1936.
One young man was a prisoner of war, and when they asked him where he was from, he said, from Bunkie, Louisiana, and somebody in the back said, did you ever go to the Blue Moon? That was in Germany in World War II.
Over the years, Sonny Harris and his wife, Sybil, put together a priceless scrapbook from the Blue Moon days. And who do we have here?
Well, that's Cab Calloway, and that wasn't made at the Blue Moon, but it was a production picture.
Mm-hmm.
And Earl Hines, he was a top musician, a good drummer that played there. And I think Ella Fitzgerald was singing in the band when they were there.
Really?
And she's not in the advertisement, but she was his singer at that time.
That's incredible. You have a Hall of Fame of musicians that went through Bunkie, that went through the Blue Moon.
Well, the big bands, they were popular. I was there when Cab Calloway played, and that was the first big band that played at the Blue Moon, name band, and they had a big crowd, and my father had a little stage down in the front of the band stand, and that's where Cab Calloway stood and sang. He charged my father about $1,200 for a Saturday night, and the big bands that played there had usually been in New Orleans and were going back east or west or wherever they were stayed, and so that's the way we would get them.
The anti-gambling administration of Governor Robert Kennon in the 1950s marked the beginning of the Blue Moon's demise. It was converted into an antique store in 1958 before burning down in December of 1961. Do you miss the days? Do you miss the days of the Blue Moon?
Oh yeah, we miss. Sybil and I go out to dinner, and we're on the way home. We pass where it was, and I will say, well, Sybil, 60 years ago, I was really having a good time.
History is alive in Bunkie, either in the hearts and minds of people like Sonny Harris and Nancy Carruth, or in the structures of the train depot and the Bailey Hotel.
Having lived here all my life, it's always been home to me. I've never lived anywhere else, so.
Would you ever want to live anywhere else?
No, I really wouldn't. I like it right here.